Welcome to Polar Opposites. My name is Justin Conder, and I have a few questions for you. Do you value freedom and equality? Do you value having free and fair elections? Do you believe that everyone should have a say in how our elections are conducted regardless of their economic status? Listen up. I'd be willing to bet the vast majority of people who are listening to this podcast probably answered yes to every single one of these questions. Without a doubt, that is what the majority of the people have answered. We're going to be talking a lot about political campaigns, their finances, how they're run. We're also going to be getting into a lot of freedom of speech and freedom of the press. We're going to be talking a lot about all of these topics. And to wrap our heads around what we're discussing today, we're going to go back to high school for just a minute, for just 1 second. So you're back in high school, you're walking the halls. It's that time of year. You see all the political posters going up. You've got a couple of friends running for student body president. Specifically, one of your friends is this very rich kid who has all the finances in the world and can do just about anything you can imagine with their money. The other is a middle of the road, average Joe kid, probably a lot like you and I. There's this assembly, they get up in front of the entire school, they plead their case on why you should vote for them. Middle class kid gets up there and says, look, I have the merit, I have the knowledge, I know this school, I know where this school needs to go, I know the direction that we need to take things. Vote for me. Right after that kid sits down, your rich friend gets up, says, I am going to buy everyone in the school a car if I get elected. Now, who's going to win? It's silly to think that anything other than that rich kid winning would happen. That kid is going to win 100% of the time. This is obviously just an absolutely silly example. Probably not even legal for it to happen, but you can see that money is very influential. Having money and finances when you are running a campaign is so crucial. There's a lot of campaigns out there who rely on certain groups of people with deep pockets to get them elected year in and year out. You know, just because people have the finances and the means to do something doesn't mean that they're acting in the best interests of our country. Some of the founders believed that massive amounts of money, especially corporate money, mixed with the freedom of speech could be a very dangerous combo to our democracy. We've had to address a lot of issues regarding campaign contributions from wealthy people in our country. We have a long history of this. Back in 1905, Theodore Roosevelt, he addressed this issue head on when we decided, you know what? We got to stifle contributions from individuals who are very wealthy. We got to kind of stifle that because they are contributing so much and they are giving so much to the campaigns that a lot of the smaller people, the people who don't have the money and the means to donate to campaigns, their voices are not getting heard. We are only hearing from this very, very, very wealthy top class of citizens. That's not the way that things should be. The reason why this can be dangerous is because back in those early days, you know, back in the 1800s, it used to be that if you had the money to get somebody elected, you could definitely go up to them and say, hey, I am going to get you elected. I just need you to go back to Congress. I need you to vote on legislation that's going to make me a lot more rich than where I'm at, or is going to get me out of trouble for doing X, Y, Z. If you had the money to do this, you could buy congressmen or congresswoman, and you could basically get them to do your bidding because their jobs rely on your pockets. Eventually, we did pass legislation that would address this issue. You know, we have rules in place where you cannot donate over a certain dollar amount to a political campaign. You can only donate up to a certain amount. I believe the last time I checked, it was $2,500 for any given campaign. There's a loophole in all of this. Yeah, there is a loophole. And I believe that when we pass legislation off of the fact that you can only donate a certain dollar amount to a campaign, when we put an end to endless campaign donations, they created a loophole that would help their rich counterparts to continue to contribute to their campaigns. Like it or not, this loophole is probably something that they couldn't even avoid, though, in the first place, because it has everything to do with the freedom of speech, with the freedom of the press, a lot of the freedoms that we value. What are you going to do about people who just take their own money, that go off and they take their own money and say, you know what, I can't donate to their campaign, but I can advertise, I can say whatever I want, I can pay for polling, I can pay for billboards, I can do all of that. I don't need to be a part of their campaign. This is how political action committees were born. What is a political action committee? A political action committee is a group of people that specifically want to interfere with the elections with their money. They will donate lots and lots of money. They will pull their money all together to donate to the campaigns. No, they're not going to donate it to the campaigns. They're going to use it for their own agenda. Now, if that money is just used, it just so happens to be used in such a way that it helps out the people that they're trying to get elected, well then all the better. The simple fact is, this is constitutional, and people have every right to get their massive pocketbooks out and to spend away. And they spend their money very smart. They know which elections to target. They know who is important to support in order to get their agenda done. They're going to do it, and a lot of times they are successful. You may be wondering at this point in time, well, if political action committees, if these PACs, that's what they're called, is PACs for short, if these PACs are just groups of people who are pulling their money together, can't moderate people like you and I do the exact same thing? If I have a lot of money, can't I just donate to a very moderate PAC and have them support my ideas? The answer is yes, but that's not the issue with political action committees. The issue with PACs is that it is this game that gets turned into the rich versus the poor. And it's an unfair game where the rich win every single time. It sends the wrong message to middle and lower class people. It sends this message that your voice doesn't really matter. If you can't pay to be heard, you don't deserve to be heard. It's a little bit unfair to say, well, if you really believe in an issue, then just donate all the money that you don't have to the cause so that you can get your voices heard on certain issues. That's just not the way it works if you don't have money. Now, obviously, we don't want to stifle the freedom of speech or the freedom of the press. That's not what we're after. So we gotta come from a different angle of attack on this. Because what political action committees are doing is unethical. Have no mistake about that. It's leaving massive amounts of Americans out of the process. But we don't need to necessarily have money to fight back. Whenever you see an ad and it's super negative and they're just complaining about a certain candidate, 9 times out of 10, at the end of the ad, it's going to tell you that it was paid for by a political action committee. What if we just decided, hey, you know what? A PAC is a bad thing. A PAC is not something that I support. If I hear that something's coming from a political action committee, it's going to turn me off as a voter. What if we went about it that way? Why don't we just call out this poor behavior for what it is? It's them trying to spread some sort of propaganda to get us to do something. They're using the media. Like last time, we talked about the media and how they are basically causing polarization in the fact that they only share certain ideas. Political action committees are using the media to spread these extreme ideas as well. Just because they can buy the media, just because they know how to get in and to pay them to say what they want them to say, doesn't mean that we have to buy it. You and I can totally reject all of that. The other downside to political action committees is the fact that they cause a lot more polarization in our country. Not that we need any more polarization than what we've already got, but to have these very wealthy groups definitely pulls us apart even more than we already have been pulled apart. That's because a lot of the ads that are run by political action committees tend to be very negative and very nasty towards whoever they're against. I find that the vast majority of political action committee ads are like this. And if you really take a deep dive, you'll find that much of the information that they share ends up being exaggerated. It ends up being misleading or half-truths or not quite the full perspective or sometimes outright lies. Yes, they sometimes just full out lie to people. I don't think there's anybody out there when they see a negative ad who goes, "Oh yes, finally, another negative ad. This is great. What an awesome day this is." Yeah, no, negative ads are not a good thing. They're pulling us apart. They're not making politics civil. This is something that political action committees need to own up to. Everybody says that they hate negative ads, and yet I still see these ads work. I see people get elected because of all the misinformation that floats around certain candidates. I still see that happening. How do we put an end to this? It comes down to you and me making the conscious decision that we're not going to buy into that crap. Political action committees may be able to control the media. They may be able to twist their arms and get what they want. But you know what they cannot control? They can't control you and me. They can't control how we vote. And they can't control if we vote. A lot of times, these groups are counting on scaring away moderate voters. They want it to look uncomfortable. They want things to get nasty. They want people to see these negative ads and go, "Goodness, I am not going to vote if politics is that nasty and that crappy to get involved with." They're counting on that. How much would it stifle their momentum? How much would it absolutely foil their plans if all of us moderate people decided, we're going to vote. We're going to go out there and we're actually going to make a difference? How much would it trip them up for us to see their ads, to hear their polls, to have all these things thrown at us, and for us to go, "I see that billboard over there, but I'm not going to buy into that garbage. I am going to try and do my own research and see if that really is the case." There are plenty of independent fact checkers that you can go on to that will help you make educated decisions. One of my favorite ones is definitely factchecker.org. That's one of my favorite places to go. I find it's just a very much a nonpartisan platform that will give good information. I would recommend it to anybody who is trying to find good, relevant information. Next time, we're going to be talking about the Electoral College. But for right now, as we end our discussion here about political action committees, about PACs, about their money, their influence in politics, can our nation depend on you? Can we depend on you to make the right decisions, to see past all the partial truths, half-truths, lies that are told by these groups. Can our nation count on you to say, enough is enough? We're not going to go down that road anymore. You are better than that. I am better than that. Together, we are better than that. Thank you for joining me here on Polar Opposites. It's been a privilege to have you on here today. And by liking, subscribing, and following this channel, you can view more great content like this. And like always, when you learn better, do better. We'll see you next time.